When I go on a ski expedition towing one of these big old honkin' parasleds, I use a towing harness. Now, these are a little bit difficult to find, but if you go to aaronlinstew.com/Greenland, you'll be able to find my links. But a towing harness, it kind of looks like a climbing harness just on steroids with a back support. Like if you're working in a warehouse and you needed some extra support or safety and fall gear, a towing harness is super great. But the reason I use this is because it's way lighter and arguably simpler than a backpack. So you can see on my body this towing harness here. I've got the little tail that I click into the rope. My towing trace is right here, and I show you how to tie this in my book, The Most Crucial Knots to Know. But this guy simply clicks onto my towing harness right here, and you can pretty much do it blind, I think. Click it in there, and then I just attach my towing traces to the sled. Now you can see that this towing harness, it has a chest strap, because unless you have this massive chest, when it's underweight, these things will fall off your shoulders and it'll drive you nuts. They are adjustable. There are these adjustable points there. Other than that, it basically looks like a backpack, well, without the backpack. So that's kind of the funny thing about it. But let me show you a couple of features of towing harnesses that aren't on backpacks. So on this, you can see that it has, let me turn the light here so you can see this better. It's got a couple of loop points where if you want to loop in carabiners or some such thing, it's actually pretty handy. I'll show you just how big they are for reality. So if you needed to attach a carabiner, and the nice thing is it's out there. It's got some clips for other straps. I've long since lost those and haven't used them in 2,000 miles. I think I'm doing pretty well without that there. But importantly, it's got these D clips. I don't know what they are. You can find these at Home Depot. It comes with them. And that's where I attach my harness to. I used to attach to the back tail, but the problem is that on the harness, if you just attach it to the back tail like it comes out of the factory, it actually, and here's a struggle I'll show you with these harnesses, it's a little bit crazy, is the reason you want to attach to the side of the harness rather than the back is that when you're pulling on the back load here, it really stretches out and makes a big old hole, versus attaching to the hip points, it pulls directly from the waist and it doesn't put this big old gap. I made that mistake in Antarctica. When I was pulling, my harness would be like ridiculously far out. So by moving these hard points to the hips, it works a lot better. Now, compare this, even though this looks pretty crazy, what I did in Antarctica and Greenland is I didn't wear my harness over any of my outer clothing, only my shirt, and then I put it on. It's a little bit cold, but then I put my harness over my shirt, and then my jacket, and then my fleece, and my parka, and whatever else. And the reason is that if you're skiing along, and it's all good, and oh, you need to take a layer, now you got to unclip your harness. But instead of doing that by putting your harness under your jacket and actually just on your base layer, you never ever have to unclip your harness, like ever. So this is a key thing. You'll see other teams, they've got their harnesses over their outer jackets, and the moment you stop, or they stop, oh, you gotta undo your harness, and then you gotta undo your jacket, and then you gotta re-click your harness. And even though that doesn't sound like a big deal, on a 30-plus day expedition, that time wasted translates to hours, and hours translates to miles or kilometers. And just by putting your harness on the wrong location in your clothing stack up in your layers, you're actually costing yourself miles of travel from the 5 minutes of fiddling, plus you've got gloves, it's really hard. So what I recommend is literally put your harness on just above your base layer, you know, your basic wool shirt or whatever you use, then put your insulating layers on that. That way you never have to touch your harness, and it's much easier to deal with. Now, Vilberg Garcetier, the polar explorer I met in Antarctica, she was actually using a backpack, and she had a backpack the whole time. And you can simply use this sort of rigging where you just put a carabiner loop through like this, and attach, and then pulls on. And that is definitely a way to go, but I just don't want to carry a 4-pound backpack on my back, even though it's somewhat more comfortable, because the big thing about it, again, is the point is that this backpack is now over every layer I have, so there's no way for me to, like, oh, I need to shed a layer. Now I got to take off the backpack, shed a layer, pick the backpack up, and that's why I simply go with the harness and put it over my base layer and then jack it up over that, and it works so much better. Can't recommend that enough. Towing harnesses are the way you want to haul your sled if you don't need a backpack. If you need a backpack, well, there you go, and that has a consequence. But the towing harness, that's what I did in Greenland. 2 friends and a polar bear. You can see Terry right there towing his sled with a harness under his jacket. Thank you very much for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe to the channel.